Good evening, everyone.
Hey, Jim. Okay, well, I have 6 o'clock on the dot. We'll go ahead and call the March 4th meeting of the Planning Commission to order. Sarah, would you like to review our logistics?
Yes, good evening, commissioners. My name is Sarah Copeland. I'm the Community Development Director. Due to the public health emergency, this meeting is being held virtually with planning commissioners and city staff joining the meeting on an online platform. This meeting is being broadcast on Channel 2 and on the city's YouTube channel. It is also being recorded. Please remember to keep your microphone muted when you're not speaking. We ask that everyone identify yourself when making or seconding a motion. That really helps us with the minutes. Every vote will be taken by a roll call. You must be visible on video to vote. We don't have any public hearings tonight, but for public comments, we will call on members of the public who raise their hand or indicate that they wish to speak. Participants on Zoom can use the raise hand feature, and those calling in by phone may press *9. We do ask that all our applicants and guests turn off their video until we get to their item on the agenda, which shouldn't take too long tonight. But are there any questions about our meeting procedures? All right, thank you.
Okay, our second item on our agenda is the approval of our agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda for March 4th?
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Barnes, you need to turn on your video. Thank you. And who made the second?
That would be me.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Barnes.
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn.
Yes.
Commissioner DeLong.
Yes.
Commissioner Spencer.
Yes.
Mayor Stilo.
Yes.
Commissioner Wood.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, item number 3 is approval of the minutes from January 7th, 2021. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Commissioner Wood, so moved. Done, second.
Okay, Commissioner Barnes.
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn.
Yes.
Commissioner DeLong.
Yes.
Commissioner Spencer.
Yes.
Mayor Stilo.
Yes.
Commissioner Wood.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay, agenda item 4. The first item here is and it is PC 2021-03, the final plat for 23rd and Swift Apartments. Sarah, will we have a staff review of procedure first?
Yes, so this item, the preliminary plat for this was approved by the Planning Commission in December. And so the final plat is reviewed against the preliminary plat, and the Planning Commission makes a motion to recommend approval or disapproval to the City Council. This is not a public hearing item because the public hearing was held in December when you considered the preliminary plat. We do have several representatives from the engineer and the surveyor here tonight. And so I'll let, unless there are any questions about procedure, I'll let one of them discuss the application.
Okay, would our applicant like to present?
Is John with J&J on? This is Blake at Star Development.
Yeah, this is John. You know, I mean, I put together the plat and I'm here to answer any questions you might have concerning the, what's shown on the plat. As far as the development goes, I'd have to refer that to the engineers or the developer for those questions.
I'm Sarah. This is Sean Sussman with Walter P. Moore. I can walk through the plat and just kind of give an overview of what we've done from preliminary to final plat. So on 23rd Street, we've dedicated some right-of-way along there, and also added a access easement for the sidewalk for 23rd as one of the changes. And then we've also dedicated some right-of-way along Buchanan Street, and we provided a 15-foot building line setback on there. And on 25th Street, we provided some more dedicated right-of-way, as well as another access easement for the sidewalk, and a 15-foot building line along 25th Street, and a 10-foot building line along Swift Street. And there was no change on the dedication of any right-of-way along Swift Street. And I think that is pretty much it. Does that, any questions on that? Byron, are you speaking?
It's like the mayor has.
Okay. Don?
Yeah, I had heard, now I don't know whether this is a time to talk about it or not, but there was some concern about the rainwater runoff. Has that been looked at, or is this too early for that, or?
No, we've resolved that. We've
okay.
Provided some infrastructure along 23rd Street to mitigate the flooding in that area. So yeah, we've worked with the city and the engineers to mitigate that problem.
Okay, well, I'd heard there could be a problem, but so
right.
As long as you got figured out, fine with me.
Yeah, for the 10-year and the 25-year event, we've got it pretty much solved. The 100-year, of course, that's another story. So, but yeah, we've got that worked out with the city and us. So,
okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, sir. Byron, do you have a question? I can't hear you.
We can't hear you, Byron.
Your audio is bad. Can't hear you still. Maybe you can put it in the chat. Oh, there is no chat. I'm sorry, I don't see a chat. You can write it on a piece of paper and hold it to the camera.
You guys hear me now?
Yeah, yes. I can hear you now.
Sorry about that. So one question would be, and this might be staff, I'll ask you, Sean. So when we talk about the plat and having the room for the sidewalks, are we doing if you go just north of there in City View, you have a little bit wider sidewalk than you typically have, maybe say on the east side of Swift? Is this plat approving for that? Am I thinking that right, that it's maybe a slightly wider sidewalk on the west side of Swift than the east side?
We're accommodating the public sidewalk within our property. That's why we're providing the easement.
Okay.
So that's the primary reason. We also have some parallel parking along there that will be along that edge. So actually, I apologize. It's angle parking, not parallel parking. So, but yeah, there will be a sidewalk in front or between the garage and the parallel or the angle parking.
I will just say, Byron, it's a 5-foot sidewalk, okay, which is the minimum required by the Northgate Village design guidelines. I'm not sure. It does look, I'm looking at the aerial, it does look like it's wider. Like I'm looking at the 2500 block. It does look like it's wider on the west than on the east side. I don't know if the east side is just an older, if that was when we put in 4-foot sidewalk. And that's the difference, but 5 feet is referenced, and Public Works did not raise an issue about the width. So
that makes sense. As you're traveling south from along Swift, you know, you're used to that kind of wider sidewalk. And so if it's consistent with what we have to the north, I think that's good.
Right. Any other questions?
Don?
Yeah.
Oh, Don?
Did I understand you say that you're going to have garages?
There will be a parking garage on the northwest corner. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it won't have individual garages on.
Oh, no, not individual. It's a parking garage. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, moving.
I have a question, but not for the applicant.
Well,
Okay.
maybe
So
let's hear a staff report and then see if there's any after that. Dave, Sarah, do you want to go with our staff report?
Sure. So the staff report that you received contains our analysis based on the criteria in the municipal code for review of a plat. I would note, Mayor Stilo pointed out one of the concerns that we noted as a condition in the preliminary plat approval was related to stormwater easements. Since you considered the preliminary plat, the developer's engineer and the city engineer have worked out all of the stormwater issues. So we do not have a need for any stormwater easements to be dedicated with this plat. But in the process of working through the public improvements, we did end up moving the sidewalks on 23rd and 25th onto the edge of the private property. And so this plat dedicates a public sidewalk easement so that those are public sidewalks. They're just on the private property instead of in the right of way that's being dedicated. But I would note that the plat conforms with all of our criteria for approval of a plat. It does not create any zoning nonconformities. It meets all of our design standards. As Sean mentioned, this final plat will dedicate right of way on 23rd and 25th in Buchanan, and it will include the sidewalk easement. And I'm happy to answer. We recommend approval. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Dave, go ahead.
Just something I want to point out, and it doesn't specifically apply to this, but it's part of a larger picture. If you look at the document on page 4, criteria C talks about any lot or tract has to conform to goals, strategies, et cetera, of the master plan. And I'm very tuned into the master plan again because I watched the council meeting on Tuesday night. Sarah took us through a very nice summary of that. But if you look in the master plan, the vision themes number 2 talks about specific types of housing, and it talks about increasing home ownership. It talks about offering a full spectrum of housing. It talks about increasing the supply of townhomes. It even goes on to talk about helping people transition to home ownership. One single apartment complex by itself, you could probably make the case that, okay, it meets the master plan criteria. But when you put, the stuff that went in at 1 North, we got this one going in, we got the one going in Armour and Land, we're doing a bunch of apartments. So I'm finding it difficult to see where that fits in our master plan. Now I get that the master plan is going to undergo some revisions, but you all know there's been a ton of talk recently about apartments, and the city's almost obsession with increasing our population. So I just want to go on record to say, things like this I'm sure are necessary, but I think we've got to take a harder look when these things come up. I mean, just because we can, does that mean we should? And there's other questions that aren't being asked. We talked about rainwater runoff, right? No one's talking about the impact on the infrastructure. No one's talking about the impact about all these housing units on the water supply. We don't have an unlimited water source here. We don't. So I'm just want to go on record to saying as a planning commission, and of course the council is going to do what the council does, we should take a lot harder look at some of these things and consider some of those things that are going to impact the rest of the residents. I mean, having a bunch more people, I mean, I think in the council meeting, you talked about another 1,000 homes coming in, or 1,000 family units, or whatever it is. I mean, that's great for business. I love that for the businesses. How does that impact residents that are already here? And I don't think anyone's asking those questions. I'm not saying it's in our purview to ask those questions, but I think as a planning commission, we could take a little harder look at some of these things that we're approving, because once we approve them, it's done. It's a done deal, right? And then here comes the next guy, and he wants the same kind of deal. So it's just a cautionary tale, if you will. I'm an old guy, right? That doesn't mean I'm opposed to change. I would just want us to look a little harder. So I find it hard to say that this particular plan meets the master plan criteria as far as column C or item C goes. I know it's a moot point, probably a moot point. I just wanted to get that out there for future considerations. Thanks.
Any other questions for staff? Okay. Do I have a motion for case 2021-03?
I move to approve. Mayor Stilo, move to approve.
I'll second it.
Commissioner Barnes,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn,
Yes.
Commissioner DeLong,
Yes.
Commissioner Spencer,
Yes.
Mayor Stilo,
Yes.
Commissioner Wood.
Yes.
Motion passes. This will be on the March 16th City Council agenda for final approval. Mayor Stilo?
Yeah, sir, could you answer Mr. Woods' thoughts on what he's talking about? Or
I
Well-
really don't expect an answer, Don. We can maybe have that conversation later.
okay.
And I'm sure we're going to have many more conversations about it.
Well, you can answer, sir.
I mean, I'll chime in if I can. I mean, I do share a lot of Dave's concerns as well. You know, when I kind of saw the plan for 23rd Street, I looked at it. I mean, again, I think the priority for the city is we do need to get more residents, you know, however we can. But you know, I mean, we ran through that master plan, and yeah, you know, homeownership's important too. And so, I mean, I think it's great that we have a lot of interest in developers coming into North Kansas City that want to build and residential units of whatever kind. I think it's a sign of what's going on in this city, and a lot of people want to live here. But again, I agree with what Dave had to say. It's at some point we got to figure out, you know, some things that we can do around home ownership.
Okay, I'm happy.
Yeah, I would note that going back to the staff report, this development complies with the goals and strategies of the master plan, which identified this area as part of the traditional neighborhood character area. The property is owned by the developer and it's zoned R4. So what they're doing is a permitted use. They are, you know, the plat really is about public facilities, and the public facilities are available. And where we have concern about specifically about the width of the right-of-way, they're dedicating those to us, and then they construct what they're proposing to support the development. So in this case, you know, if you were to say no to the plat, what happens is that then they redesign the public facilities to be in the existing right-of-way and to not dedicate easements to us, but it doesn't stop the development because it's permitted, and they're properly zoned. We're working through the site plan issues. So it's just at this point in the development, this plat is really for the benefit of the city. And even without it, the development moves forward. I don't know if that doesn't really address your concerns, but that's kind of where we are in the development process.
I get all that. Speaking as a resident, and I'm sure you've all heard this, here we go, building more apartments. I mean, what is the benefit to the existing residents? I get it. You can do it. The businesses love it. It's already planned. I get all that. I don't see any real benefit to existing residents. And all I'm saying is, going forward, we should maybe get a little bit different or more or better criteria to review before we rubber stamp some sort of a development, just because it can, right? I don't know that we always should. Just saying.
Well, and that's really an issue for the master plan and the zoning ordinance. And if those are the things that the city council wants to direct us to re-examine, we can re-examine those, but that's beyond the scope of this particular item.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. I mean, for me, I don't want to speak for Dave or anybody else. It's not an issue with this project in particular. It's when you keep seeing these types of projects, is something, I mean, they don't have to be mutually exclusive. Is there something else going on that's not even tied to that super block or any other projects going on that is addressing the homeownership rate issue in North Kansas City? I think that's for me personally, that's what it is. It's not that I'm opposed or disappointed or anything with this specific project or any other apartment project that's going on in the city. It's what else are we doing to then address the homeownership rate? So,
Commissioner,
I'm not necessarily a question or anything like that now. It's just speaking in general from where I'm personally coming from on the issue.
Don, you had a comment?
Sarah, the city owned that piece of property, didn't it? So,
yes, we did.
Yeah, so if we didn't want it for apartments, we wouldn't have sold it to them for that. And I think that's where we need to start looking at in the future. Once we sell the property, then we don't have much control over it anymore. So we better decide whether or not we want to sell it to somebody that wants to build apartments.
And in this case, you also signed a development agreement with the developer, because this is the last piece of the Northgate Village redevelopment. So yeah, this is, you're right. Once the city sells it, you all made a decision about how you wanted to see that developed. And that's more memorialized in the development agreement.
Okay, thank you.
I was just going to add that this is a good time to plug again. We're going to be having a more conversation on development in the near future. So watch out for more materials and information on that. Definitely make sure you make your voice heard through that process as well.
Is that through the city council, Bryant?
Correct. I can't remember the dates off the top of my head. Sorry, I would have thrown those out there.
We're having another presentation about the development process and incentives at the March 16th work session. And then there will be a kind of a public comment period similar to what we did with Armour Road. And then I think the city council's virtual work session on this is in May, but I forget the exact date. But we will be sending out postcards to everyone like we did for the Armour Road Town Hall with more information, and there will be more information available on the city's website. But the public comment period goes through at least the beginning of May.
The date is May 25th.
There you go. Here's Kim. Thank you.
Like the voice of God right there chiming in.
Okay. Going on to agenda item 5, comments from the public. Are there any comments from the public?
If anybody is wishing to present a public comment, please use the raise hand feature or *9 on your phone at this time. At this time, I'm not seeing anybody indicate that they would like to present a public comment.
Okay, thanks, Kim. Any comments from staff?
I just wanted to let you all know that we have a new permit technician starting with us on Monday. Her name is Megan Summers. She was a previous administration intern with us from a couple of years ago. So you might, I know she attended a planning commission meeting, so you might recognize her after she starts, but then she'll be helping to coordinate your meetings moving forward. And we are expecting at this time to have an April meeting and doing a possible zoning ordinance amendment to clear up a few items.
Okay. Any comments from commissioners? Brian?
I was just going to ask her, would that be a time where you'd bring up what we talked about last meeting, the electric fences?
What I heard the last meeting in reviewing the record for the minutes was that you all wanted to wait and see if you had additional applications with respect to electric fences before we moved forward with making that change. If that's not the case now, it would be the time to tell me. But I was not anticipating doing that in April.
Have they already installed that fence out there?
Honestly, I don't know. They have a permit. I don't know if the installation has been completed.
Okay, thank you.
Jim.
First of all, I just want to say I appreciate Commissioner Wood's comments, and I just really want to kind of highlight to residents, you know, I think that first of all, within this commission or within boards I've served on, at first I want to say I think it's very healthy when I don't think that things need to be unanimous in order for them to function well. In fact, I think it's a often healthy thing for there to be give and take and for there to be some discussion and in some cases some disagreements. I don't think they always have to be unanimous decisions in order for boards to work and commissions to work functionally well. And so I appreciate the dissenting discussion because I think that's really important. Otherwise, this commission or any other just becomes a sort of rubber stamp. And I don't think that's a healthy thing for us to become. I think in the bigger piece, I do understand with regard to this specific plat, but what I'm really hearing and what I echo is the concern in terms of the bigger picture, what the residents here want our community to become. And I think that's a piece that residents are going to have to become active in talking about. If we become a city of mostly apartment dwellers, that's a more transient population of folks. And in many ways, the question.
You went dead, Jim.
Can anyone read Jim's mind?
That Link City.
We'll give him just another few seconds to see if he comes back here.
And you know what can North Kansas City offer me? The question is,
Jim, we lost you there for about 30 seconds. We might have to back up. We lost you for about 30 seconds, so you might have to back up just a bit.
I'll just summarize it in terms of saying what can I do as a member of this community versus what can the city of North Kansas City do for me? And I think that that's part of what we need to be enhancing, whether that's ownership or renting, or, you know, we could have some folks renting here for 20 years. But the question is, to what degree do they feel a commitment to this town and to this city in a way that they are active members of our community? And I think that's the piece that we're going to be hitting a turning point here soon, where, you know, those competing needs are going to kind of come into play. And so I think that's a piece not only as commissioners, but certainly as residents that we're all going to have to, and everyone in our town is going to have to weigh in on. Thank you.
Any other comments from commissioners? Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Done.
Second.
Commissioner Barnes?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner DeLong?
Yes.
Commissioner Spencer?
Yes.
Mayor Stilo?
Yes.
Commissioner Wood?
Yes.
We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, folks. Good night.
Thanks, guys.
We're done.